This might be the end for anime YouTubers since very recently a business entity called ShowPro, which is a subsidiary of Shakukan, Shueisha, Hakusenshu, and other anime and manga publication, just gave a lawsuit to a Pokemon anime YouTuber. Plus, earlier than that, Toei Animation absolutely nuked the anime YouTuber known as Totally Not Mark, who makes Dragon Ball, Naruto, and One Piece reviews and videos. I'll leave a link to both videos if the channel still exists, since they're literally saying F fair use and taking down videos seemingly at random, since oddly enough, Crunchyroll of all places got a takedown notice on some of their Bleach openings from TV Tokyo, who should have known that they were being legally paid for. But I guess Japan just decided that anime YouTubers won't be able to feed their families this year. Cue intro. Your favorite AniTubers might be gone tomorrow, and there's nothing you can do about it. A new technique has been created to quickly and cheaply nuke them without YouTube's copyright claim system, because using their IP or intellectual property can get you deleted. A YouTuber known as Suede uses short clips and voiceovers to make his videos, but sadly realized that fair use isn't a right but a defense. So as long as it's used transformatively, such as parody, satire, educational critiques, as short clips, and transformative, then it will count as fair use. But it's never a guarantee, since if you can possibly replace the original by recapping the entire plot, it's unlikely to fall under fair use. So he had his main channel deleted with all his subscribers. Here's a clip, or basically the entire video, just in case the channel's deletion takes the video also.
Suede's Pokemon journey is gone. The channel will be deleted in maybe 3 months, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. This isn't hyperbole or catastrophizing. I've just been targeted by a new technique, easily executable by Japanese corporations, that can destroy any anime-based YouTube channel quickly and cheaply without going through any of YouTube's counterclaim systems. If other companies find out about it, all creators featuring Japanese media without an MCN or a massive following, and even those who do that have a long backlog, could be removed from YouTube permanently within months from now. I feel like the internet might want to know about this. Here's what happened to me over the last week or so, why it's important, and how if YouTube doesn't make big changes soon, any creator using Japanese IP in any way could have their channel, which may well be their entire livelihood, deleted and have to pay a large fine on top of it. All completely legally. At any time. It could have happened just now to your favorite anime YouTuber, and there's basically nothing they can do about it. That's how urgent this is. I've been making humorous reviews of Pokemon videos for about 8 years. I make a living through them. I have over 7 million views and have about 20,000 subscribers. I've tried to make it as transformative as possible with short clips and voiceover. Like with many similar channels such as Team 4-Star, I have had run-ins with the company that owns the rights to the Pokemon anime. In my case, Shogakukan Shueisha Productions, hereafter referred to as ShowPro, the bridge-style content which mine was at least adjacent to. If it can feasibly replace the original by recapping the plot, even in a parody context, it's still unlikely to fall under fair use. Because of this, even though I've received many strikes and had my channel taken down once before, the fact that I was able to counterclaim meant that I could always call their bluff, and since I was always relatively small, I was never worth the hassle. Until now. ShowPro has come up with a gambit that doesn't require adhering to fair use or playing by YouTube's rules in any way, and it works, ruthlessly and efficiently. So what did they do? Well, they basically sent a brick through my window. Got an email from YouTube copyright. That seemed to be a pretty standard counter-notification notice, however the wording at the bottom was different. We've received the attached court complaint in regard to this content. The content will not be reinstated at this time, but the copyright strikes will be resolved unless a court determines copyright infringement has occurred. If you get a final judgment in your favor, you can submit proof of such on this thread, and the videos may be restored. This is what was attached. A court complaint by ShowPro entirely in Japanese. Since I was lucky enough to have a friend who could read it, I found out that ShowPro was basically serving a small claim, demanding I pay 80,200 yen as well as legal fees for using their IP without permission. On the YouTube side, the phrasing of the email meant that while the videos currently count only as copyright claims, the instant this issue is resolved, they will become strikes. Since there's well over 3 videos that have been claimed, this means bye-bye channel. So of course, all of the videos mentioned in it were taken down and the option to counterclaim had been removed. The only option left was contact claimant. I had no idea how to respond, especially since not only was the notice entirely in Japanese, but after having it legally translated by a third party at my own expense, I found that there was no no time frame given, and most bizarrely no means by which to actually pay the fee. That wasn't the only weird thing about it. Showpro didn't demand all of my videos be taken down, just 89 of the over 200 possible videos that could easily meet the same criteria. Then there was that amount. 80,200 yen is almost $700 in the US, or just over 1,000 in New Zealand where I live. It was big enough to hurt a lot, but suspiciously small in comparison to what they could feasibly demand. The way the number was reached was unusual too, as instead of demanding a percentage of the revenue I received, they demanded 0.02 yen per view as damages. Now I want you to remember that while I go into a brief tangent. So as Showpro demanded compensation, I scrambled to find legal representation for the first time in my life. It was hard enough to find a New Zealand lawyer who dealt in internet-based IP disputes, and then they said they couldn't help me as it was also for an international dispute, which they weren't equipped for. Then I sought out international dispute lawyers who could help but often didn't specialize in IP disputes. Finally, after one of the 20 different law firms I approached had the decency to tell me that this issue most likely needed representation in Japan, I now either had to pay megabucks for a huge firm to outsource representation in Japan, or try and find a lawyer there myself, one who speaks English and specializes in IP law. Finally, after a referral of a referral, I found this legal unicorn, and he was able to help in some ways, if not others. This isn't his fault, he did a great job. Basically, he said that there wasn't anything I could do as the claim was under Japanese jurisdiction, and as Totally Not Mark has helped people understand in his latest video, also linked in the description, Japan has a very different stance on fair use, basically non-existent. So while I could feasibly lawyer up if the claim came from the US and at least argue fair use, even if my odds might not have been great, since the videos could be seen in Japan, Japan can prosecute me, and I can't argue fair use in a country where it doesn't really exist. This was bad enough, but then the lawyer hit me with a bombshell that made everything click into place. He told me that if I refused to pay, it would cost Showpro much more than 80,200 yen in legal fees to make me pay from New Zealand. Suddenly, it all made sense. The large but not too large fine, the vague and obtuse documentation, the fact that the fine was based on views and not revenue, this was basically an international slap suit. John Oliver did a good video on them, link in the description, but at its most basic, a slap suit or strategic lawsuit against public participation is when a plaintiff makes it needlessly difficult, confusing, or expensive for the defendant to respond, burdening them with the cost of a legal defense until they abandon their criticism or opposition. The lawyer I talked to said I have about 3 months before the judgment on that complaint goes through Japanese court, at which point the takedowns will all become official strikes. The channel will be deleted, and I'll be given the means to either pay the fine, ignore it, or fight it. If I pay, I admit fault, so the strikes stick, the channel is deleted, and the whole thing becomes legal precedent. If I ignore it, they probably won't pursue it, but the channel will still be deleted, and I'll never be able to visit Japan, one of my lifelong dreams, without the risk of being grabbed at the border and fined. If I choose to fight, I would have to spend massive amounts of money hiring an international lawyer in a country where fair use isn't really a thing. I would be 99% likely to lose and bankrupt on top of it. Basically, it was pure intimidation tactic since they don't have any financial reason to pursue the fine, but I have to spend big bucks that I don't have scrambling to translate and detangle the process if I want to even get to the point of challenging them. The sad and terrifying truth is they're right, and they are completely within their legal rights to do so. I want to emphasize here that although they are doing it in a particularly petty, aggressive, and jerkish way, Showpro are not doing anything wrong. The videos could be seen in Japan. Japan doesn't really have fair use. I'm a sitting duck. Everyone is. But then it gets worse. Do you remember that I said they struck less than half of the videos on the channel? That means they can do it again. I'm a small creator only able to get by on YouTube with the support of a dedicated Patreon, and I'm very lucky in that regard. But I can't afford a $1,000 fine more than once in a year, let alone a month. I can't fight it as it takes place in Japan, where fair use isn't really a defense. I've been told by YouTube that the strikes caused by the complaint mean my channel will be taken down soon. I don't have clout, I don't have many followers by YouTube standards, and I don't have the financial or mental capacity to fight it. I'm only one guy with autism, barely earning enough to support my family. I'm not built to handle this. Unless a miracle occurs, it looks like they've finally beat me, and for the majority of cases, they could beat everyone else too. Now, I've heard tons of great and heartwarming support from everyone on Twitter and Patreon, and I appreciate all of it in this garbage fire, but much of the well-meaning encouragement is somewhat misguided. For instance, some say, what about video games? I know this all seems weird when Japanese video games are generally accepted as fair game on YouTube, occasional shenanigans notwithstanding, but the fact is that Let's Plays and streaming became a cultural zeitgeist beyond the level that TV or film reviews ever were or are, and cracking down on them causes a global response that just doesn't exist for film and TV reviews. Not to mention individual game experiences are consumed actively while film media is consumed passively. Watching someone play isn't the same experience as playing it yourself, but TV reviews can be seen as the same product, at least in Japan. The other one was, what about Totally Not Mark? Yes, I've actually talked to Mark. He's scared too. He was only able to fight against the strikes and gain geo-blocking by working within YouTube's America-based system where he could use fair use as a defense. But if Toei hears about and tries the Showpro gambit, he has no defense. Since the damages cited by the company are based on views, it doesn't matter if the videos are geo-blocked now. What matters is the views they accrued then. Speaking of geo-blocking, that was the other thing brought up in the Twitter replies. Why can't I just make it so that the offending videos can't be viewed in Japan? Meaning that if they want to prosecute, they have to go through a country that does acknowledge fair use. Well, unfortunately, this leads to the scariest part of all, the part that involves everyone on YouTube. So here's the whole thing.
So the gist is absolutely everyone who's used Japanese IP, whether it be anime, manga, game, TV shows, or a picture of a studio's logo, is in big trouble, since they've developed a method to take down almost every video on YouTube that you probably see with Japanese influence. Scary, huh? Well, here's the solution Suede came to.
At least one company has found a seemingly foolproof means to take down any video that offends them as long as it was ever able to be viewed in Japan up until this point. Which is most of them, as geoblocking isn't available to creators without a significant IP of their own or a membership in an MCN. They found a way to circumvent both the counterclaim system and fair use, and they can do it in 2 easy steps. Step 1. Create a rudimentary small claim in Japan, aim it at the offending creator, and send it to YouTube, demanding that the videos be taken down. Make the fine too big to ignore, but too small to be worth legal fees. Make it confusing and obtuse. Step 2. Since it counts as legal proceedings, YouTube steps back and washes their hands. The videos go down instantly with no option to counterclaim. The YouTuber is forced to challenge you in your country. This will be near impossible for them without expensive representation. That's it. Boom. An easy and efficient way to remove videos with anything you don't like that has your IP on it outside Japan. No risk of counterclaim, no fair use, point and click. But here's the real end point of all this. If this becomes a precedent, anime YouTube could be effectively gone in months. I may be the first, but I'm almost definitely not going to be the last, and all of your favorite anime YouTubers, big and small, could be hit with the Shopro Gambit right now. Totally not Mark. He survived a big takedown, but only because Toei worked through YouTube's counterclaim system. All his videos that have ever been available legally in Japan are fair game for the Shopro Gambit. He could be gone tomorrow. So could Team 4-Star. So could Little Karibo. So could Mother's Basement. So could Super Eyepatch Wolf. So could any YouTuber who has ever used any anime clips at all. If they contain the IP, the company can slap them with a small claim and drag them to a court that doesn't recognize fair use. Unless the video fits into the tiny definition of Japanese fair use, and even if it does, they'll still be saddled with massive legal fees, they will always lose. And the channel is gone forever. As I said, the sad thing is, even with my extensive searching, I don't think there's any way to stop this. I don't know when it'll happen, or even if it'll happen, but from this moment on, there are 1,000,000 swords hanging over 1,000,000 heads, all held up by a single hair each. They might never drop, but they might also all drop tomorrow. As far as I can tell, there's no way to stop this, but there is one way to prevent this from happening in the future. For anime YouTube to survive, all creators need geoblocking. If YouTube wants anime-based content, or any kind of Japanese IP-based content, not to be effectively purged, they will need to allow all creators to choose which countries their videos can be seen in, fast. If videos containing Japanese IP are allowed to be blocked in Japan or other countries that don't really recognize fair use, it means that rights holders in those countries will need to work through countries that do. Again, fair use is not a right or a catch-all, it's only a defense, but it is still a defense. Currently, only creators that belong to multi-channel networks or own a significant IP of their own have access to geoblocking. But if YouTube wants to make it so that anime and Japan-based content in the future are not subject to the instant whims of cold international corporations, this must be changed. Unfortunately, this is not as clear-cut as it sounds. This is a known issue at YouTube, and though allowing all creators geoblocking will provide a small but vital amount of protection to their users, many of the lawyers I spoke to agree it's also a hotbed for piracy, and it'll open up another massive can of legal worms. Dailymotion, one of the only other semi-viable hosting sites, allows geoblocking for all users, so it is possible, but YouTube is much, much bigger and more gears are in place. There isn't an easy solution, but the issue needs to be made aware of. Geoblocking for all. Make it a conversation. One thing is for certain, though. The imminent threat of near-instant dismissal simply for using any Japanese IP also needs awareness, fast. Those who watched my videos while they were still up know that I never actually did a call to action as I found them tacky. But since this channel might not even exist in the next few days, screw it. Like, comment, subscribe, and especially share. This needs to trend. People need to be warned and YouTube needs to be made aware of this issue. Make sure this video is seen everywhere. Share it on all social media and use the hashtags ShowProGambit and geoblocking for all. Make your own videos about the issue. Tell your favorite large anime YouTubers about it. We've all learned long ago that nothing happens on this site unless something goes viral and a noise is made. So please, make some noise. Whether or not anything happens, everyone needs to know just how dangerous using Japanese IP has suddenly become. This channel is on borrowed time. In about 3 months, whether I pay the damages or not, the strikes will stick and the channel will be gone.
I highly recommend everyone watching to subscribe to his new channel, as well as mine also. You should have saw that coming. And also, Suede, forgive me for basically stealing your entire video, but I only intend to preserve all that you've said in case your channel goes. Plus, I'm literally called Copyright Master, so yeah, spread the word. Hopefully, we can save his channel and the YouTube anime community from complete destruction. Since a company called Shakugan has been known to collect people's addresses, names, bank infos, you know, the little stuff. So, good luck trying to go to Japan without getting sued to hell and back. And if you don't believe this is an issue, then look at what Master Media said about the issue a few years ago.
Recently, one of the biggest, if not the most popular anime YouTuber right now, Gigguk, had his entire channel demonetized. The reason for this was reused content. This is a phrase that you're gonna see a lot of in this video. There is a huge problem going on right now in the anime community, and I'm very surprised that nobody has broken this story yet. We all know of the increased copyright problems on YouTube as it affects every YouTuber who uses music or video footage. And there's even been cases of YouTubers whose entire video has been claimed because they simply hummed a song.
I want to ask you, is it true that this video got claimed for this part, and therefore will my podcast right now be claimed?
Oh, yeah, it did.
Actually, I'm not going to play it, but
Yeah,
you guys
don't.
were singing.
Yeah, Living on a Prayer claimed it. We just literally said Living on a Prayer, but I have so many instances where I just say a few words and my videos get claimed.
It's worse than it's ever been.
But this is deeper as it targets the anime community as a whole. We're not talking about one video getting claimed by some corrupt company. We're talking about entire channels being demonetized, deplatformed, doxxed, and sued. Gigguk makes video essay format content where he reviews, criticizes, critiques, and talks about overarching macro level comments on anime as a whole. It's completely fair use, and that's exactly why the law is there in the first place. If you're creating any type of product, you want people to talk about it. Your worst enemy, if you're a producer of anything, is silence. What you want is exposure. So you want people to review your product or show or whatever it is, because it in turn gets viewers to come to the content in question and gives you views and traction. So eventually, after enough noise was made, Gigguk had his channel reinstated and remonetized, but not after a loss of days, if not weeks of revenue from his channel. It's like going to work and your boss saying, you still have to come to work, but I can't pay you this month. The reason this is so concerning is for many of us, like me, this is our livelihood at stake. This is my full-time job. Now, Gigguk may be one of the most popular anime channels, but there's tons of others, which we're going to talk about here, especially for some reason fan animators. Why pay animators pennies on the hour when you can just pay them nothing at all? Animation Rewind with 650,000 subscribers. He had his entire channel demonetized. He was freaking out on Twitter. This is his livelihood, and I don't blame him one bit. After he made enough noise on Twitter, I even helped retweeting it and tagging Team YouTube. Eventually, his channel got reinstated, but he went at least a week, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks, without any pay. Not to mention, not just getting paid, but that overbearing feeling of stress and anxiety. You've built a business and a channel from nothing, and it has become your livelihood and your job and your baby. And then you wake up one day and you see an email from YouTube, oh, you're done.
So if anyone was wondering why I rarely upload anything, this should probably answer all your questions. And with that said, have a great day or night, whatever time you happen to be watching this. Peace out. Hopefully I see you in the next one. Hopefully my channel doesn't get killed for exposing the corruption of the industry. Or just money-hungry companies who don't recognize fair use because the Japanese legal system is far different than the English legal system over where we're at. So, international... Oh yeah, I was closing off the video. Peace out. See you in the next one. Awesome weebs.